Welcome to the Gifted Woman podcast with your host, Jay Menz. This is the place where you can come into full alignment with who you are without a mask. This is the place to discover what your unique gifts are. So let's go. Okay. Oh my God, you're going to love Vazquez. You're just going to be fully obsessed because she is a licensed mental health counseling associate, an EFT master practitioner, a certified life coach, fitness instructor, writer, and a veteran with over 30 years of coaching, mentoring, leadership, and counseling experience. She specializes in helping others overcome PTSD, trauma, anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, and navigating challenging life transitions. Oh, Taz is a lifelong servant leader and learner. She retired from the Air Force in 2018 after 25 years. While she had a successful military career, she spent her adult life battling depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress, low self-esteem, and suicide ideation, successfully overcoming these challenges. She is now on a mission to let others know they're not alone and they can live a soul-full life of passion, love of self, others, community, purpose, your calling professionally and personally, and play, zest, and hope in their lives. Oh my God, what a life. And I think that we start with what it was like to be in the Air Force. That's what's calling us.
So being in the Air Force, one, proud of my career, proud of the time that I did. And at the same time, being a female in the Air Force, I will admit that I experienced probably at least half of the jobs or assignments that I had were probably toxic work environments, unfortunately. And so it was a challenge at times to be a female in the military, and at the same time being an officer and then a senior officer in the military. And and I'm also proud of my service. My dad was in the Air Force. And so it was kind of, didn't know what I wanted to do after I graduated college and, decided ROTC was the way to go, and was with it for just shy of 25 years. So.
Oh my, so when you became a licensed mental health counselor associate, was that while you were in the Air Force or was it after or before?
Life, don't you love life? And it's, where it takes us, right?
Yeah.
I started my master's degree in counseling while I was in the Air Force. And then I was stationed in Washington, D.C. I was working as a congressional liaison up on Capitol Hill. And I was also, my side hustle, if you will, was actually working towards licensure on counseling. And I got myself deployed for a year. So then I ended up having to refer all my clients out. And then just because of, after a year deployment, come back and job, life, curveballs, plot twists, etc. Ended up stepping away from the counseling side of the house. And fast forward after divorce and COVID and hitting the low points in my life, I kind of was like, well, what the heck do I want to do in my life?
Yeah.
And at the lowest point, I'm like, is this really what life is about? And it was kind of this resounding hell no. It's like, all right, so then let me kind of get back to what I know, what I love, what I want to do, my passion and purpose. And I realized it was serving others, the lifelong servant leader. And so I did a side jinx or jank, whatever you want to call it, I worked at the YMCA. I had become a fitness instructor, but then I also worked in the membership. But I realized for me, that was not my jam. That was not my skill set. Love being an instructor, still do it because I love serving in that way. It's a lot of fun. But on the membership side, so I ended up stepping away from that position. And then once again, little soul searching, what do I want to do? And kind of came across coaching. And initially I was like, what's this coaching thing? I don't know. Do I like it? Don't I like it? Is it kind of like used car salesman? No offense to used car salesmen. And I was like, no, I really do. There were some mentors, some others that I had gotten to know and really like. And then along that way, decided to start my business in coaching. Never, ever thought of being an entrepreneur. and
Yeah.
realized this is what I wanted, it's what I wanted to do. And then along that way, I think most entrepreneurs, and as you're starting out in something new and different, you kind of get that imposter syndrome, like, who the heck am I to be
Oh
doing?
yeah.
And came across tapping, and it was a coach helping coaches who was an EFT practitioner. And I was like, oh, let me do one of these free webinars, and had done it. And I'm like, holy crap, this really works. Because about, rewind 15 years ago when I was doing it on the therapy side of the house, I'd come across tapping and I'm like, oh, that's so woo woo. No. And then now, fast forward in my life, I'm like, wow, this really works. So I was like, all right, well, yep, I want this as part of my practice. And so that's what I did for several years. And then was invited to take eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, or EMDR training.
Yes.
And I took it and I was like, damn it, because it just kept calling to me. So I
Mhm.
knew, I was like, all right, well, because EMDR, it's licensed therapist that has to practice it. I was like, I guess I'm going back, because by this time I was living in Washington State, and I've been here for about 6.5 years now. And I was like, well, all right, you know what? Even if I have to start over on my hours, or if nothing counts from my time in Virginia, doesn't matter, because I'm doing what I love. And
Yeah.
so now I get to use coaching and tapping and EMDR and other therapy, art, etc., working with clients, and depending on what hat, if it's my business or if it's through the agency that I'm working with towards licensure, as an associate, then, it's awesome, because I'm helping people dealing with trauma, dealing with anxiety, depression, and so, a lot of the things that I had to deal with, and realize that, yes, we can get to a place in our life where it's that post-traumatic growth, where it's that um, it doesn't have to own you, and this is not all that's in your life, and there's so much you can do regardless of what circumstances are.
Oh, it's like I can feel everything that you're saying. I'm like, yes. How were you counseling people when you were dealing with your own, like, would you call it CPTSD?
Yeah, it was complex PTSD, that I was dealing with, childhood trauma plus some experiences in the military. And honestly, then it was still denial. I mean, I had done some therapy along the way, and I also did not do kind of the maintenance piece that's needed. I mean, because we go back to old patterns that are familiar if we're not in that maintenance mode, if we're not in that healing mode of just um, routinely taking care of ourselves, mind, body, spirit, moving, exercising, eating, sleeping well, etc. And I wasn't doing a lot of that at that time. I was still able to be very professional, very, I never had an issue in terms of
Yes.
worrying about that, right? Ethics, etc.
Yeah.
And at the same time, now that I'm here, I realize there was so much more that I could have done
Mm.
in support, and or just in terms of the concerns or worries. Because I think even as a coach or a practitioner or a therapist, there's times where we worry about, am I doing enough? Am I supporting this client? Or maybe, having to learn how to separate, right? And turn it off when you're done. So it's not something that you carry over with you then into your day to day. And when you haven't healed, it's way too easy to stay stuck, in that anxious mindset, or that monkey mind, worrying about all sorts of different stuff.
Yeah. So when someone's coming to you now and they're in the monkey mind and they're in their anxiety, do you know intuitively which practice to weave in to help them the most? Like, or do you do a combination of EMDR tapping? Like, do you just know where to go because you've had so much experience now?
Um, a little bit of yes and yes. It depends, because it always depends on the client, and it depends on where are they at in their healing journey, and also where's their nervous system at. Because
Yeah.
the nervous system is just so dysregulated, and they are so um, in that anxious mode, and they are just, I say their nervous system is just hijacked, and
Yeah.
they, like on a scale of 0 to 10, and they are 20, on that scale. For me, I'll recommend to them, hey, I really recommend, let's do some tapping. Let me give you some tools and resources that you can use and take away with you right away. Breath work, mindfulness, there's great guided visualization on kind of a safe, calm place, because some people have never experienced a favorite place. So a safe place, and then developing that, so then that way they can start to use that for themselves on their own. And then from there, do some of the deeper work through tapping, do some of the deeper work through EMDR or art therapy or whatever it might be, or integrating those, depending on the person and what their comfort zone is. Because if they're not, if they've never experienced tapping, and they're not ready yet, you do a disservice. Same with anything, right? It's always about inviting. It's always about, especially if someone's dealt with trauma, inviting them to experience something, seeing, hey, giving options, well, we could do this or this, and just kind of checking in on where's their nervous system at. Are they dysregulated, or are they in their window of tolerance? And if they're in their window of tolerance, awesome, because then you can do so much more. And I would imagine you've experienced a lot of the same as you've worked with clients, depending upon, well, which modality am I going to use, or do I integrate this? And some of it you get because of the experience, right? And patterns, and
Yes,
we each have our
we all do.
yeah, our intuit, right? Mine's seeing patterns, but a lot of that is also because of so much history, analytic history, right? Whether it be through the military side or the coaching, therapy, practitioner side, and working with thousands of people. So
I can just like sense your heart. It's like your heart is just so giant, and it's like you don't want to like leave anyone behind.
yeah, as much as I can. Although I will admit, if they're not ready, you know,
No, that would be like a lose-lose for everyone.
yeah, and there's people who aren't ready.
Yeah. Yeah, and they will be, or it's like they will find someone that resonates with them, and that's great.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, when you were going through all of the different things that you were going through with the military, and you said some toxic environments, and
Yeah.
then like, did that kind of bring to light some of the childhood things as well? Or like, did it all come together in one giant explosion? Or
It was looking back, it was, a series of Lemony Snicket events, right? It was the series of different things happening, unfortunate things that had happened, that just added. So toxic work environment, other stressors that get added in, whether it was my physical health, my mental health, my emotional health, whether it was events in my life. And it was, there was one job oh boy, I was borderline obese, had heart issue, had TMJ, jaw issues.
yeah,
All of this was because of anxiety and exacerbating, and all the things that I hadn't dealt with yet.
oh
So
yeah,
a lot of health issues. And then on top of that, I was having to work, like 80 hours a day, because of the environment that I was in and the time frame where I was at. And then on top of that, it was years before where I remembered, because I actually blocked out a lot of my childhood disassociation, and had
yeah.
kept me safe. I remembered it about 20 years later, started dealing with some of it, but hadn't completely dealt with it. And then fast forward, second marriage, was having challenges in, this was going on work-wise, health-wise, and emotional-wise. And all of that happened. And then when I moved, from that job, I had to basically say, okay, this was the start of things. Something's got to change. Things have got to change.
Yeah.
And I ended up, getting my health back, being able to let a lot go. From there, just before COVID, and stepping away from the Y on the membership, or the fitness facility there I was at on the membership side, my marriage ended as well, and was starting a new business. A lot of stressors. That's where a lot of the suicide ideation was coming in, because of the anxiety, as well as the depression and the unresolved trauma.
It was too much. Too
It was
much.
too much. My nervous system was like, what the hey? And so, that was really where I started, and I knew I needed support. And so, was getting that while I was building my business and coming across tapping. And as part of that community, I credit the instructor that I had, because literally it was absolutely amazing. I'd already done a lot of work, but there was 2 group sessions, And there was one time where I could still feel I was getting emotional as I was trying to describe. I'd been working with a fellow student, we're sitting there swapping
Yeah.
tapping sessions for each other, gaining experience. And I could still feel some of that dysregulation of emotion coming up when I was talking about my trauma. She stopped and she said, let's work on it. And I'm like, in the group, in front of everybody? Okay, let's just do it. And literally had two sessions and group session, but being on the hot seat, if you will,
Yeah.
absolutely game changer in my life. Doing the tapping, and then from there, I also did a veterans program called Warrior Path, which is a program for helping veterans and first responders turn their struggle of post-traumatic stress into post-traumatic growth, PTG. And
Wow.
those events, I mean, there was one 4th of July, I remember, and here you've probably experienced it as well, but they used
Oh
to
yeah.
the fireworks. And I would be cowering under my covers crying because after 7 hours of indiscriminate, just loud noises, that was one time before I had done that healing work. Fast forward, I'm outside and I'm crying because all of this is going on and I'm not jumping, I'm not flinching, no, triggers, nothing. And
Wow.
that's why in
Yes.
other ways I'm just so passionate. And I've seen people, whether it's my own journey or I've seen others who complex trauma, and through sessions, they're able to release trauma that they experienced 60 years ago, and to reclaim their life now. And so that's what I find, that us as healers doing this work is just so important to be able to help others.
Well, and just, like, because 4th of July, having never experienced war, but just from it's so loud and jarring, especially those M80s.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
even like, our systems get so dysregulated, but just hearing you say, like, oh, I had some tapping sessions, and that was a thing that I'm going, ooh, I want to do some tapping, because being regulated, I think that is the goal. That's
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
entire goal of
Heck yeah.
life. Is like, so you
Yeah.
can handle anything. You can handle turbulence on a plane. You can handle when a bill, like a giant bill, is unexpected and it comes your way, and nothing has to get you off your center line if you're regulated.
Yeah.
And
Heck yeah.
also for the people that, because I had toxic mold 4 years ago, and I was like really sick, and it dysregulated everything. And so I'm journeying my way back to regulation.
Yeah.
And I think that when you get to a certain level in life and you've done all this work, and then something comes in and kind of snipers it,
Yeah.
and you kind of have to start over, or it's just like a new layer, you can feel defeated and
Yeah.
like,
Yep.
damn it, I've already done all this. But
Again. Yeah.
yeah, again, like what the hell? We've already, but I think it's really important to not judge the sensations that come through.
They just are. Their
They just
feelings, their thoughts, tied
are.
to our past, tied to all those thousands of automatic negative thoughts that are there every day, and the positive ones, but we tune them out because of our nervous system, because we're
Yeah.
geared for looking for safety, looking for danger. And so when your nervous system gets hijacked, your whole body responds, all those thoughts, negative thoughts, I'm in danger, I'm not good enough, and then that negative belief that we might be operating under,
Yeah.
I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable, I'm not good enough, I have to, you know, I have to be perfect in order to be loved. I mean, whatever that negative belief is that we picked up somewhere along the way, that whole loop is activating, and then the feelings and sensations in our body. And I know, with the book, The Body Keeps the Score, but
Yeah.
I like how someone else had said was, while the mind keeps the score, the body's the scorecard. And it's so true of how integrated things are. And so when you use tapping, when you use EMDR, when you use, I'll integrate art therapy with tapping, and it provides modalities that are non-re-traumatizing and calming your nervous system at the same time that you're keeping present and working with the past. And so it's this beautiful combination that then you can help regulate your own nervous system, like you said, because it's so important, and it's so easy have the nervous system for a variety of means, not just trauma, but chronic anxiety, chronic depression, other things, phobias, etc. All those negative thoughts that we buy into because we're not paying attention to them because they're subconscious. And as soon as we realize we've been given top billing, to our inner bully or our inner critic, then, we go, wow, okay, now what? And then now it's time and practice to start rewiring the brain because maybe we have a master's or a PhD in buying into the negative, and now we need to start practicing the other side.
Well, and would you say in your experience that someone can be positive and because this is what I'm seeing right now, and I just was on like another interview a couple whatever's ago, and we were saying that like the landscape is changing so drastically. So people that have been successful for many years and have been confident for many years over the last 12 months have really gone through a roller coaster of like there it's an identity crisis. It's like you've come out of the pandemic and now we're 4 years later and it's like all the things that you needed in order to take you through now people are tired and
Yeah.
they're pivoting and they want more out of life and so is that what you're also seeing in your practice is
Yes, and COVID was just such a time where, I mean, you saw um, a exponential increase in depression and anxiety. And
okay.
so, and once you have that chronic anxiety, that chronic depression, and if you haven't had an opportunity to learn and practice the life skills, because we don't teach that until we're in crisis half the time, most of the time.
Yes. Yes.
Unfortunately. And so, or we just suck it up when we figure, oh, it's just it's just anxiety or I'm just nervous. And you don't realize what it does to your body over time. You don't realize how corrosive it can be. And so once, and then from there, different life stages that people are in, right? If they want to make transitions to a new career, or maybe they're not happy in what they're doing, or they assume that this is what I have to do, and they don't realize, there's things that, what really lights you up? What is it you really love? It may take time to get there, but you can bring it into your life. And I'd be curious, so your view and perspective of manifesting, in that, because I know that's kind of initially what, brought us together. And, I look at manifesting of, when you bring into your life what you want, it can be such a powerful thing. And at the same time, there needs to be a little bit of a dose of reality and also a dose
Oh
of
yeah.
you got to acknowledge the negative. And so many people want to do this spiritual bypassing and just go right to the positive. And oh, I don't want to talk about the negative. But it's already there. It's already there in the back of your brain. All of that negative, all those negative thoughts, that negative belief that's being triggered and activated because of memories or because of, the loop there. And so if we don't acknowledge it and release it, we build blocks up to being able to do what we want. We self-sabotage ourselves. And so when you can start recognizing that, acknowledging it, have conversations with our resistance or with our protector, whatever it might be, however you're looking at it, then saying what it is you want, now you're bringing that in. Because our brain and our energy, I mean, our brain goes where the energy flows, right? And vice versa. Because our brain doesn't know. And so if you are spending your time in fight, flight, freeze, fawn mode for your nervous system, your brain's going to hand you and confirm that that's where it needs to be. And all the negative things, that's all you look at is the scarcity. Now you start realizing, that, oh, wait a minute, this is what I want in my life. Now let me recognize and start to see that I've got that ability to see those thoughts, those beliefs. I don't have to buy into them, and I can heal from them. Now what do I want in my life? And all of a sudden that just starts bringing in more possibilities, more opportunities. And now we start seeing that abundance. And that's kind of how I look at manifestation, or, when you're manifesting something in your world.
Yeah. Manifesting is well, and also it's like in this, I think we're over informed in so many ways because I'll talk to someone, they're like, well, I'm a projector, sacral 5-1, and my Capricorn is rising, and I'm like, this is too much. It's too much. And it's great to know all these things about yourself, but when they become the reason why or why not you're not doing something, then I think that kind of just sideswipes intuitive
Yeah.
knowing.
Yeah.
It's like we don't need to use all these labels to explain ourselves. Like, why can't we just speak from our hearts? And that's really where I'm like kind of focused on. And there is, like you were saying, the spiritual bypassing. There's, I think what's the pendulum has to swing
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
one direction and then the other direction, then
Yeah.
we'll find our middle ground. But there's been a lot of swinging, and I think we're now landing in something that feels like we can understand it. And yeah, so manifesting isn't like this thing that only spiritual people do. It's we're doing it all day, every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love everything that you're saying. And so say someone is, or I would just like for you to describe like who are the women or men or humans that you just are obsessed working with who will get the greatest benefit from working with you?
I find that I feel very honored and privileged and grateful to be able to work in that space of trauma.
Yeah.
And so, to be honest, that's my forte. Is working with helping those through that healing journey, or be part of their journey wherever it takes them. And so that's where, with trauma, and typically there's going to be anxiety, depression, negative thoughts, imposter syndrome. I mean, a lot of other things are typically tied together with that. And so I find that that's where I feel my purpose is and my passion is. And at the same time, there's others that I've been able to help. Career transitions, or grief loss, or goal setting, or performance phobias, letting go of phobias, so someone, like you said, can travel on an airplane
Yeah.
without that anxiety. And so there's those areas, but I tend to, the majority of my clients, whether it's the coaching, tapping, or therapy side, tend to be on the trauma, and then also the anxiety, depression.
So many people listening are going to know exactly, they're going to go, yep, I'm going to contact her. Yeah. And like, thank you for being so open and honest and about your journey and about who you help. And it's obvious your heart is just gigantic and you're really in tune and aligned with what you're doing. So thank you. That was awesome. Like, people are going to be like, what a friggin' badass. Like, what an Air Force badass.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, you know exactly. Just find in the show notes exactly where to contact Taz, and she is just going to help you heal your traumas and guide you in a way that feels very non-judgmental and open and receptive. So anyone that works with you, they're lucky.
Thank you very much. Thank you for what you do, for all the ways you help others, as well as get the word out so folks know that they're not alone.
Thank you. Epic. Okay, bye.